Nole Nation, welcome into another episode of the Renegade Rundown. Camp is one practice shy of halfway, kind of had like a travel day, headed over towards Jacksonville for their yearly jaunt over there to get a little couple days away from home, do a little team building over there. We got rumors abound on the recruiting scene. One of the top targets on the offensive line board, Josh Petty, being rumored to kind of be falling out with Florida State and going to a couple other schools. We're going to get into that. So we'll run down everything we heard, the most we got out of the past couple of days of practice. Of course, that scrimmage that we had since we talked to you guys last. But let me welcome in, as always, my beautiful and amazing co-host, Jen Santee. She's over there on the bottom today. I forgot to switch everybody around, but it'll be all right. Y'all know the deal. You can find her on Twitter at Jen Santee 1890. And up next to me, my guy, Deshawn Adams, a.k.a. Deshawn Adams 18. You can find him on X as well. You can find me at Renegade Report 1 and right here at the Renegade Report, of course, every Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday doing the Renegade Rundown. We've missed a couple Sundays, took a couple Sundays off for different things here the last couple months. But as we get closer to the season, different deal. We're going to have a game to talk about every Sunday. It's going to be a lot of fun. We can't wait. We're so close. We did the math before the show. What is it? 18 days until kickoff. So it's a beautiful thing as we sit here on August 6th. But we'll jump into the scrimmage and kind of the comments and the things we've heard coming out of it. I want to start off with Elijah Moore because as a freshman, it's pretty amazing that he's pretty much been the biggest name out of camp so far as a true freshman. Every year, that's a very popular question. You know, who do you think the true freshman is that will have the biggest impact on the team? But I guess my question for you, Deshawn, is how big of an impact can he have? Like, I'm not going to ask you to put an exact snap count, but do you have a range? Are you buying into the hype? Is he a legit guy that could go out there and get 500 plus type yards and fight for a starting spot? Are we getting a little ahead of ourselves?
In my opinion, I think just slightly ahead. I think he'll contribute, but because he wasn't an early enrollee, it's still some learning curves with not only the playbook, but just his route running, getting understanding relationship and getting things down with DJ or whoever he works with. My thing about it is with him, is he's operating on just natural ability. And it's obvious that he's a big target. So I can see where he can have some packages, red zone packages, because he brings something to the table that we do have some size, but the ability to high point the ball is something he's shown. He has a really, really good catch radius. So I could see where there's some packages put together for him.
Let me bounce this back at you guys, and I'll give both y'all a chance to answer this one. Keon Coleman, that's a comparison. The dude is 6'4" and a half. He's like closer to 6'5". Who knows? 205 pounds. He's a perfect comp. I mean, you talked about the physical gifts that he's relying on. Some of the things I've heard and read, even put out in the public, this I can talk on for the most part. The media and even anytime we find out anything, we're not really supposed to get in specific details of plays. But I seen a mainstream media guy go post this in a tweet. Apparently in the scrimmage, he caught a ball in double coverage and just completely, like, he's making those kind of plays. The wrinkle I wanted to throw, though, is as far as this team goes, man, DB is where we're strong. So we heard a lot of talk, and if you didn't know this already, this scrimmage was about the youth and the transfers with the inexperience more than the guys coming back are all ACC type guys, Pat Payton, etc. Those guys are all on snap counts. All the seniors and a lot of those starters and stuff, and especially this scrimmage was about the young guys and whatever the third string, second, third string. But at DB, like, I don't think that's any concession. I don't think the DBs that Elijah Moore is facing are any slouches. Like, who is he going up against? Like, think about the guys that are redshirt freshmen, sophomores, and things like that at DB. And you've got, like, Edwin Joseph and
Mhm.
all those guys. So yeah, that would be my wrinkle. Do you think that has an effect? Does that move you a little bit more? Just thinking about the talent he's going up against, and he's already making these like highlight plays. He's been consistent. That's the crazy thing. Like that's
Mhm.
the hardest thing. He's been consistently catching the ball. He's been consistently the guy that keeps getting brought up and brought up by every coach.
Mhm. I would say this: if that's our floor right now, then we're off to a really good start. With freshmen, you can even throw Wheezy Lawayne McCoy in there too.
Hmm.
But just getting back and talking about Elijah, like I said, um, being matched up, we know we got a deep DV room, so he's matching up with someone, even if it's within his class, that is a legitimately talented athlete. So for him to be able to make the plays, like they did have a highlight, I think Clay showed the highlight of him, the one-handed catch, and he was covered. You could, if you pay attention to the film, the video there, the DB was on him. So he's making contested catches. That's something
Hmm.
right there that you're seeing. Okay, the ability not just getting open, but he's being able to make those high point catches over someone. So basically, as they say, head topping. Um, like I said, I think he can really contribute. I don't know about 500, but I definitely think he can contribute early on this season. I would look by mid-season. I'd probably say he could push himself into the rotation by mid-season.
Beautiful, beautiful. Jen,
Yeah,
I know.
I'm really impressed by Elijah Moore. I don't know what to say until I see him like play in action, honestly. I mean
Yeah.
the camp reports sound great. The comp to Keon Coleman is great, but like Keon was such a different level player. I honestly just need to see him and before I get anybody hyped up. I know everybody's
Mhm.
really worried about the wide receivers. I just am not until I see them play because I don't see anything that would make me not believe the coaching staff right now. Like they've never given me a reason not to. So I'm just excited. I just want to see them play. Like that's all I care about.
We're so close. Very well said. We are so close, and yeah. And I'll put a caveat on it. When you hear us talking about can it be a Keon Coleman and things like that,
Mhm.
don't think about Keon Coleman that just had 800 yards and was the first pick of the Bills and all that. Shouldn't have even slid to the second round. Think of Keon Coleman as a freshman at Michigan State,
Mhm.
the type of
Yeah.
guy. That's kind of what I'm after as a player comp. But I mean, I don't think Keon was that big coming out of high school. I think he probably grew up to 200 pounds. I'm
Mhm.
not sure. I'd have to look. But yeah,
Yeah.
freaky. And if that's the floor, if that's the kind of reports we're getting back at the beginning, that's amazing. Cam Davis, another guy. You keep hearing about just hard, tough runs. Like he's just
Mhm.
built for this. He really has hit the ground running. Cam Davis, another one of those impact freshmen I'm wanting to see. But this running back room is so deep. I mean, we've got running backs coming out of our ears. Our
Mhm.
top four is like just a bionic kill team between
Mhm.
Roydell Williams, Lawrence Toafili, Jason or Jalen Lucas, and Keziah Holmes. I mean, that is a tough group. You've got a redshirt freshman in Sam Singleton, who really the past week has started getting mentioned a lot. He's
Mhm.
not a big guy. He's more of a slight guy, closer to Toafili's size
Mhm.
than a Trey Benson or a Roydell Williams. But he has added a little bit of weight. And man, he had Adam Fuller his off the other day.
Mhm.
If you watched Adam Fuller's press conference after the screaming, after the scrimmage, he had veins popping out of his head and everything else. It
Mhm.
was pretty great. So really excited to see him. Uh, but I mentioned Cam Davis and Sam Singleton. Deshawn, is there a running back in this group that you're really excited to see, or do you have any takes on the running back room as far as maybe something that we haven't talked about or people are sleeping on?
Um, well, you mentioned the four. You threw out Singleton and Davis. Other than Lucas, I would go back to Keziah. I think Keziah is the perfect blend. He's the most unique back actually in the room, in my opinion, because he can give you what Toafili gives you, or he can give you what Roydell gives you, because he has Roydell's body frame, but he has the ability to catch the ball and play and come out of the backfield similar to Toafili. So he's the best mix of both backs. And that's the one I'm looking at. Other than him, you touched on everybody else. Sam Singleton was the other name I was throwing out because he's, like you said, you compared some Toafili things to him, but he has a lot more speed And then we're not even talking about Micah Danzy, but for me, it's Keziah and it's Sam Singleton.
Yeah, I think Danzy, I was thinking about that other day. You wonder with this offense, because let me explain this before I ask Jen her next question. Okay, in this offense, and I even had to get I reached out to my sources and things to like kind of nail this down and get it right in my head because I had it kind of wrong. It used to seem to me like, yeah, sure, you had a running back and a tailback in this offense, but the premier position was running back one. That's what everybody wants. That's the guy that's going to get the most carries. But I've been set straight on that. I've kind of, went the other way. I even made a depth chart and I fixed it because I was wrong. We're not all right all the time. We don't always have all the information. So in this offense, there's literally two starting running backs. You have the running back and the tailback. And, going into the season, it looks like Roydell Williams at running back, Lawrence Toafili at tailback. So really interested to see Micah Danzy. I think he's going to be more of your tailback in the offense, probably where he's getting reps. And Cam Davis is that running back all day long. I think people really get it twisted. I don't know, like affects how they feel about Toafili or something, but don't get it twisted. There's two positions. And yeah, between Toafili and Jalen Lucas and Roydell Williams and Keziah Holmes, we're in good hands, plus all the guys below him. Now, as far as DB, let's get back over there because I want to talk about Shaheem Brown in a minute, but I want to ask Jen first. Who's going to be the surprise out of that room? I think I have an idea of who the freshman is that you're excited to see. And I like if anybody you paid attention to, that's the guy you paid attention to in camp. So who's your surprise? And maybe it's that freshman.
Well, I mean, of course, I'm going to have to just pump up Ricky Knight. I can't help but do it. I think this kid was so underrated coming out of high school. It was unbelievable and borderline criminal, if you ask me, but that's fine. So yeah, he's my surprise. I think, the star for me is going to be, oh God. I mean, oh God. I don't know. I'm having a hard time with this one. So, you know what? I'm going to stick with Ricky Knight and I'm not going to ruin these two guys' names or ruin my guesses. I don't know. Does anybody else have an idea? Because I have it between two people. I just can't
just
pick
your
one.
question. It's all for you, specifically for Jen.
Oh God. All right. I don't know. I guess I would go Cypress, maybe.
Well, he's
I'm
a
thinking
starter,
Cypress.
so yeah, I think it'll surprise a lot of people for sure that are down on him. I think the kind of narrative
Well, I
out
mean,
there
people
about
hate him.
Cypress
That's why I say
yeah.
that. Like, people really do. And I really think, like, yeah, he did give up some catches and everything, but he didn't give up a lot of runs after the catch. And look, that explosive, stop that he made there. God, what game was that? Was that Virginia Tech?
Doesn't matter. Just the
It
good
doesn't matter.
play where he
Anyway,
tracked him down and ripped the ball out.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that only one person can do. So for me, I'm just not so down on Cypress as everybody else is. I think the staff does very well with prepare. I mean, let's all take a look at Jerry and Jones, everything that we all those things. Let's just give him that treatment, and I think he's going to surprise some people that really hate. Oh Lord, George got another bug. So I don't know. What do you think, Deshawn? I mean, that's just my thoughts. I don't know.
For me, I'm gonna throw out the name of a player who would have contributed a lot last year had he not gotten hurt early in the season. That's Edwin Joseph. I think he's a great hybrid type player. He'll be able to play slot. He can play in the box. He can play him on the outside. I think his versatility is something that, because we had so much depth, we didn't miss it. But he would have definitely, like Hussey had an impact in the Virginia Tech game, and you saw some plays he made. He would have flashed a lot by midseason had he not gotten hurt and had the shoulder situation. I believe that's what was going on with him, and it caused him to miss some games. But I really like his style of play. He's a South Florida dog, also underrated coming out of high school. They rated him a 3-star, I believe, out of Chaminade. His frame is a 5'11", 195, maybe he might be close to 200 now. He's the one DB in the room that I see right now, that the young DBs, that reminds me of Jamie Robinson. I think he can turn into that kind of player where he can play in the box like a linebacker, but be able to cover and be able to help in run support. And that's the one DB I'm looking for, that I'm hearing good things from. That's slipping under the radar for some of the casual, normal fans that we're not paying attention to. He's one of those DBs. Is Edwin Joseph.
Dude, I agree 100%. I mean, we were standing there next to each other, when he made a couple big time plays, that one on Darian Williamson we talked about so many times.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that stature, man. He's got that build, and you see the weight coming on. You see where it's going. And like you said, you keep hearing better and better, better things. Damn. I can't. I'm choking to death. Guys, I have a tick stomping me. I had a tick on me earlier in the production meeting. I jumped out of about killed myself, and that bastard came back for round 2. And the only reason I knew he was on me is because he bit me. So that was the jump you seen. I jumped and I looked down, and the bastard's crawling up my arm again. It's nuts, guys. I haven't had a tick on me in probably 10 years, and I've got one. I knocked it across the room, and it came right back to me. It must be dying of hunger. But getting off a tick.
Either that or you had 2 ticks.
Yeesh. But yeah, I agree every bit on Edwin Joseph. He's a stud. I can't wait to see what he does this year. I think he's going to be one of those breakout players this year. He could have a similar year to Shaheem Brown's sophomore year. Maybe something like Conrad Hussey had as a freshman, kind of a year behind that kind of impact. And yeah, he's got all those traits. But Shaheem Brown, my guy, Shaheem Brown. If you've been with us since day one, if you listen to all the spring talk from last year, all our stuff leading up to the season, previewing the team here at the Renegade Report, super high on Shaheem Brown. It drove me nuts. All the different spaces we did last year, all the different shows I did here, the question was safety, 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 safety. We're worried about safety. What are we going to do at safety? We don't have anybody at safety. Why didn't we get somebody out of the portal? All we got's Akeem Dent. And people, they just treated Shaheem Brown like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good example of somebody, but I'm not sure. But I try to tell everybody, like, dude, this dude is going to be a star. He's going to be the breakout player. I think he's better than Dent, got a higher ceiling than Dent. Highest ceiling we've had in a while at safety. Lo and behold, it happened. He could have went to the NFL this year. I don't know where he would have went. I think it's a good decision for him to come back. But I've had this take all along, and Jen can attest to this. I've pretty much said he's an NFL player that came back for another year. You've got an NFL safety sitting out there roaming the backfield, and you can't beat that. And that's the word that's came back, is you've had him been consistently back there making plays. He's become a vocal leader. Just a big time leader, especially vocal for him. He wasn't I don't think he was more of a shy, more lead by example guy in his younger years, put into some situations where, there's a lot of older guys around him, but he made up that start pot quick. And again, like I said, he's just an NFL player back there in the secondary. So you really love it. The other battle between Devontae Brown and Conrad Hussey is going to be a lot of fun. I'm pulling for my guy Hussey. Again, he was my freshman breakout last year. So, whatever. That shit, people are probably snickering like, who cares, George? Get on with the info. But Conrad Hussey, Shaheem Brown, Devontae Brown, that is the best safety room we've had in a long, long time. And I'm expecting some big plays out of Shaheem Brown. He's always just been where he's supposed to be. He's made some good plays here and there, but I really think you see the playmaker come out there. But who else? We can stick on DB here before we move along. I can ask you, you already mentioned Fentrell, so I'm going to ask you, Deshawn, about Azaria. Is the hype real? I mean, is it warranted? Are you hearing anything different out of camp? What's the deal? Am I gassing him up, or is he this guy that could maybe go first round after this year?
I think the thing is, I don't think we're gassing him up, but I think he only got one start last year, even though he was he was in the rotation.
Well, he's the third corner. So
yeah, he's a third corner. He's a third corner.
A ton of snaps.
No, yeah. So he's had snaps. That's what I'm not saying he hasn't played. I'm just saying he's had snaps. So that for the national media to put their list together because of
Mhm.
that one, start as not being a consistent starter and being a rotational DB. He's slipping under the radar, and I think he's still nationally he's underrated. Athletically, I don't think there's without a doubt, he is the prototype. He's a prototypical corner at a legitimate 6'2", 195, maybe 210 now. The best athlete back there in the secondary. Quiet guy, but plays loud. This is a money year for him because everything sets up. It's setting up for him to play this season and take it on down the road. And go get the bag, move on with his life, get an NFL contract, get drafted. The thing I like about him is his athleticism, but it's one thing I'm looking for more out of him is just seeing his natural hip movement coming out of breaks and seeing that has he perfected that and gotten better in that area. With a corner being that, his size, sometimes that can be a deficiency at times. I saw it better from his freshman year to last year. So I'm expecting to see another jump. But as far as with Azaria, I think he's the goods. He is. I mean, him and Frentrell is going to form a formidable duo, and then you throw in the other DBs.
Yeah, he's got all those things.
Yeah,
he was the third corner behind, whatever, second round draft pick, and Frentrell's coming back, like you said. So he just doesn't have the starts for the national stuff. I don't know why I'm repeating what you just said, but yeah, I just pretty much I agree. Very well said, my friend. We can move to a little bit of some edge, a little bit of beef. Mike Norvell was very complimentary about Sione Lolohea and Byron Turner, said they both had their best days as Seminoles. Um, as far as Byron Turner, just like night and day from last year. We heard a similar thing about KJ Sampson at D tackle. Boy, I am freaking hyped about Turner. Another guy who people kind of forget, and he hasn't started, been down even in the 2 and 3 deep. But you look at what Florida State's put out at the defensive line. That's not a hate. That's not a bad thing on a young man at defensive end. I think Byron Turner, to me, is in line to be the next kind of Patrick Payton success story out of high school for Adam Fuller. What do you think, Byron? Byron? What do you think, Jen? Am I hyping Byron up, or do you think he could kind of be that next guy, like maybe going into next year, be a first round pick type?
Look, I think he could. I mean, we know what the coaching staff will do for these players. I mean, I'm not saying that, but I will say, based off of everything, I am so excited about. Oh God, you just said it so well.
Lolohea.
Lolohea.
Yeah.
Lolohea. Did I say it right? Okay. I'm sorry. We've always needed these types of players on our team. Bring it to us. I need it injected into my veins. Give me all of it. Like, I just need it. And I can't wait to watch them play. I love everything I'm hearing out of practice. Yeah, like with Byron, even with Byron Turner, people were really down on him. And this kid has come to play, but people didn't understand that. Look who he had in front of him. I mean, I don't know. That would just, it doesn't make sense to me, but look, I'm excited to see it. I cannot wait to see this defense this year because I think this defense is going to be way better than people even think it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree. Byron Turner, I think what happens to some of these guys from these older classes, 21 and 22 class, and even somewhat to the 23 class, they hold it against, like, well, we wanted this defensive end or this D tackle that was way up here in the nation. Byron Turner was borderline 4-star, things like so. They can't lose that prejudice of it. We can talk about blue chip ratio and the better talent, the higher you can get in the high school rankings, the better for your program. But once you get them in the program, you throw all that shit out of the window because a no-star, any star can do anything. If you're in the program and you're developing, and here's what I've said over and over and over again, but I'll say it again, there are no moochers. There are no people that are just hanging around on this roster taking up a spot that aren't literally competing and with a future to possibly start or be a key contributor on the team. They literally for 3 years now, really, but since he got here, they have flipped that bottom third, bottom quarter of the roster every single year. 20, 25 guys are transferring out. They're bringing in about 20 high school guys, 10, 20 transfer guys. And what happens is you sharpen that thing down. There's just no more duds left on the roster, whether they came for the portal or high school. A lot of those guys are 3 stars, but nobody ever acknowledges that. When you look at the blue chip ratio, it doesn't take that into account at all. Jen and Tiny Hat, go check out the roast if you missed that last night and you want a good giggle with some adult entertainment. They get wild over there and have fun, but yeah, like they have the 16 teams that can win a national championship, and Florida State's not on there. They didn't put anything about the blue chip ratio, but it was from CBS Sports, and they knew what they were doing. They've already put out the blue chip ratio thing a couple of times, so they switched it up and just said that. But Notre Dame, if you think Notre Dame, Auburn, Florida, all these teams have a better chance of winning a national championship than Florida State, I got land, oceanfront property in Arizona or whatever they want. Guys, who knows? I can't freaking talk. But moving on. We're here at the 26:30 mark. We're going to talk a little bit more about camp, and then we'll get into the Josh Petty BS, and then probably open up the phone lines. Aaron Hester, before we move on from the defensive line room, what are your thoughts on Aaron Hester? I know you've probably heard some comments about him from the coaches. Do you think he can be a real, continue that momentum that we saw in spring and be a real, not be a guy to get on the field and you're like, oh shit, we're in trouble. More be excited for him to come off the bench.
For me, I say this: we know Aaron is a legacy first. I put him in the same category as Turner and some of those other defensive ends, and like Boots. He's still in a developmental stage. He wasn't highly rated coming out of high school, so he's one of those players that you have to put the time and the work in to find and maximize what he's good at. When we were at the showcase, he popped off, off the if you were watching on TV, let's say film, but when we were standing and watching, you could see him contribute. Okay, I can see where he's starting to grow a little bit. The light turned on. He's added on some weight. He's right now like Turner or more like Lolo Hare. He's an effort guy that's still developing technique. I think there's a spot here. A lot of us, or some of us fans, probably wrote him out, thinking he'd be one of those that would be an option to transfer.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he actually has a spot here. I mean, I've already said he's a legacy. Not only that, I think he can be a contributor. He's just one of those players that you probably won't see contribute until year 3, and we're going into what now? Year 3, I believe.
Yeah, I've been sitting here thinking about that. I have no idea. I was wondering myself. I thought he was a third or fourth year player.
Yeah, but he's a red shirt, I believe. So he's a year 3. So he's a red shirt sophomore, I believe. But he's right in that place now where he's the type of player that contributes to a championship team. I'm not saying he'll be a leader. I'm not saying he'll be the lead in. I'm not saying he's a first-round draft pick, but I'm saying he's a player that can become a serviceable player. It's the same thing I would say for Byron Turner. You continue to see development. He went from, and then one thing to add with Turner real quick, injuries played a part in his career early. So it kind of stunted his development too. So he couldn't put on the weight and all of those things. So he's now getting into that place. And that's the same thing I look at Hester. Hester had some issues coming early into his career too. So they're just now getting healthy to the point where they can get the off-season conditioning, maximize that, and then get on the field and start producing and developing. So yeah, I like Hester. I like to see him stick around. I like what I saw. He's real good effort defensive end. He sets the edge. He can get after the quarterback, do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hester and Turner maybe are crossing at a level both in their careers where they cross on the graph. But for me, Turner's ceiling much higher. But we'll see. Yeah, very close right now, and like you said, injuries have played a part. But yeah, very interested to see what Adam Fuller can do with these guys. And we don't know till we see him get out there and play.
Exactly.
But yeah, my gut is telling me, that's just what my gut says. But very good take. Amari Williams, the tight end, the freshman tight end. We talked about Elijah Moore, so we might as well talk about the other freshmen here towards the end. Here's a guy that's been kind of like a novelty. We're all hyped up, finally get a big blue chip DN to come in. He was a 5-star in the 2025 class. Gets dropped down to a 2024 commit, comes in as a 4-star defensive end / tight end. He's listed as that. But all the comments, everything we're getting back from practice is all tight end, baby. And he said he had a pretty tough day at the scrimmage. I believe is what Mike Norvell said. It wasn't his best day, but even in that, was making highlight plays and stood out, as one of the better players on the field. We'll go around the world with this one. How are we feeling about Amari Williams? Like, is he ever going to make it to defensive end? I kind of have a feeling he could be our first superstar at tight end.
You're asking me or Jen?
We're going around.
Okay,
around
go
the
ahead,
world.
Jen.
Everybody.
Okay, go ahead, Jen.
I think he could be the next superstar at tight end. I 100% agree with you. I think the coaches are seeing something here. I do see it, and I think that everybody should just get ready for it unless something changes here, because you're about to see like God, I don't want to compare him to this guy because he's not a serial killer, but y'all can put the words there and see where I'm going here. I think that's what you could be seeing. So let's just sit back and let the coaches do what they do, because I do 100. I do think he's going to be like a really good tight end.
Yeah, I think his athleticism is what's really popping off, and we got to remember this guy would be a senior this year in high school. So this young man is still in a early development stage. So got to be patient. It's going to be good and bad, just like any player. But with those who reclassify in particular, like I said, I went to the same high school with his pops. So this is one of them I'm rooting for. Definitely. He comes from good stock, good family. But his athleticism is something. When you saw his high school film, he could play defensive end, but anybody who watched his tape knows, okay, there's something there on the offensive side of the ball. And he could be develop into one of the best tight ends we've had at FSU. And we've had some solid ones over the decades, even though we don't really talk about that position a lot outside of Nick O'Leary. I can't remember. Brandon Warren is who's the last athletic tight end I think we had before he transferred. That's who I can think. I think Amari can kind of develop into that kind of tight end, move around too fast for the linebacker, because I think he has big wide receiver speed, but tight end frame. So I'm really high. I'm high on him, and that doesn't mean I'm not high on Thomas. I just think both of them as a combo is going to be a problem, a big problem.
No, facts. I mean, that could be a duo from hell. And we know Mike Norvell likes to run his tight ends out there. It'd be nice to see some double tight end sets like we saw with Morlock and Bell with those two, and it would be a different level if those guys can reach their potential. The thing with Amari Williams is we talked about the trajectory of some defensive ends. Well, when you look at him and what it takes, the consistency you need of health to come in under Adam Fuller and John Papuchis to be able to develop into the defensive end you need to be to get on the field. And especially when you weigh in that reclassification, all that really, really bodes well for him to be able to go play tight end. So I'm really happy that the coaching staff got with him. Everybody's on the same page. And I think what will happen is, even though he has the potential to be a first-round D end as well, I think by the time you're a sophomore and there's all this hype at tight end, it's going to be really hard for him to switch back. So we'll see how much D end he actually plays, how much he, hits the weight room, if he's really pushing to be that D end or a tight end. I think we'll have a pretty good answer by the end of this year. And kind of like we talked about one of the other guys, whether he has 400 snaps or not, I think he will be an impact, and he's going to make some big plays. Who knows? Maybe they're going to go to him in some big situations if that consistency comes up. I wouldn't put it against Mike Norvell to throw a Elijah Moore or Amari Williams out there, on a fourth down or something and throw it to him. And then it ends up being a touchdown or anything else like that. He trusts the guys. If you're good enough to get on the field, you're good enough to get on the field. But I will stop. I loved it. They both inspired me with their takes on that one. I had to get in on the action. Encyclopedia, one of our OG members, drops the $8.50 super chat for representing 850. Problems with petty? Jen never has a problem with being petty. Man, he knows the show. Definitely no problems with being petty from Jen, but yeah, it seems like there is a bit of trouble in paradise when it comes to Josh Petty. Here you have the top offensive tackle on the board he's 5 teams top offensive tackle on the board. Georgia Tech, Ohio State, Stanford, whoever the other one is, they all want him just as bad as we do. They're all pushing just as hard as we do. He has been kind of predicted and thought to be a FSU slam dunk for a while now. But again, he dropped a top 5. He never narrowed it down. Steve Wiltfong comes out today. It was today or yesterday, maybe actually. It was yesterday. He comes out and says basically not trending Florida State's favor from what I'm seeing. It's looking more and more like Ohio State, Georgia Tech battle. But here's what I'm going to say before I turn it over to you two and get what y'all's opinion is on it and ask questions from the audience and things of that nature. Man, these guys are 17-year-old kids. We talked about it a lot. It's never been, these crystal balls ain't what they used to be. Steve Wiltfong and his predictions and trending and how he's feeling about things ain't what it used to be. And this ain't me hating on Steve. He's still one of the best in the game. He gets updated information. But here's the problem. It doesn't matter. The information does not exist. These kids are literally changing their minds. Some of them are playing the long game and they're doing a con job and they really do get you. But the majority of it is somebody comes at you with an offer, something happens, whatever. You meet a girl, yada, yada. Things change. I'm not freaking out. I still think we got a good shot to land Petty. But just being honest, it doesn't feel good. Like, obviously, there's a reason Wiltfong's saying this. There's something going on, whether it's Ohio State came with a bag or this or that. It's scary. He was pretty much talking about, it could cause him to pop early to possibly Ohio State or Georgia Tech. If that happened, I'd be really pissed. That would really suck. But what are we going to do? Alex Atkins is like one of the best offensive line coaches in the country. We've already got 2, top 100 offensive lines. Even if we don't get this kid, we'll probably end up with a top 5 offensive line class any damn way with whoever we end up with our next 2 or 3 guys we get. I don't know. If you had to get me to put a percentage on it, after this shit, I'd probably say 50-50. I'm 50-50 going into signing day, or not signing day, but August 12th or wherever it pops. We'll see what happens. Florida State gets a chance. They saw this. This came across their desk. Somebody said, hey, look at this. It's either that or they already knew they were in trouble. But they're going to give it a shot. They're doing pretty damn good. We've got, 13 recruits? 11 of them are blue chips. Really, at some point in time, all 13 were blue chips at one point in time. Or maybe, all of them are a blue chip on one side or another. And one of them, Pritchard, literally got downgraded from a 4-star. So who went first last time? It doesn't matter.
Then I go. I'll say this. It was something that I think there was in an interview or something with Josh that he said. He said that his relationship with his sister is really, really close, and they're been inseparable for a while. So I say that to say this. It's going to be a question of, does he want to stay the status quo or does he want to break out? If he chooses to break out, then he may not come to FSU for that reason. But if it's the status quo and he, as he said, he has a really, really close bond with his sister, then we know where he's coming because his sister is enrolled at FSU. And I just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he didn't have a falling out with his sister or something.
Nah.
Whatever. We got to the 12th on the
No.
kiss and makeup or whatever. But go ahead, Jen.
This is always been my thing with Josh Petty. He's a 5-star offensive line player and a huge get, right? I've never ever understood the adding of Georgia Tech. I totally get the academics. Please do not get me wrong. If it was my child, I'd be like, go to Stanford for that. Don't be a perpetual loser in your life and deal with Georgia Tech. But he kept keeping it up there. And for me, I felt like he was trying to give a reason not to go to Florida State. Honestly, that's the vibe I've always got for him. And now that Ohio State has entered the chat, I'm sorry. I fully believe the Ohio State tea leaves here. I don't know why. I'm not trying to make anybody mad at me. Y'all don't come for me. I hope I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be wrong. But anybody who is thinking of going to Georgia Tech for any other reason, I get academics is supposedly good there. They're a bunch of mathletes or whatever it is they do. I don't know. Don't care. Okay. That's not my problem. I'm not here to judge their school. I just feel like for a 5-star player, you would want to go somewhere that would bring out your talent. Georgia Tech ain't it. Okay. Stanford offensive lineman, sure. I could see that. But Georgia Tech on anything? No. To me, he was always giving me, I don't want to go to Florida State vibes. I get what everybody's saying. He was a lean. I understand. I'm reading the same articles. I'm seeing the same interviews. But to just even put Georgia Tech in there was a reason. It was a red flag for me. That's what I'm gonna say. And I think he's good. I can see. I hear the Ohio State stuff, and that's where I would lean right now because that's just me. But that's just me.
All right. So zero ambiguity there from Jen. She thinks he goes to Ohio State. As far as Georgia Tech, when they had the option and stuff, I might be a little bit in line with your troll there on them, but I think he really does have a pretty good offense, like what you see what they did against Georgia. And we don't always have to agree. But yeah, I just like it's a question kind of similar to what Deshawn said. Does he want to break out, or does he want to go with the kind of safe one? I think the Georgia Tech and Stanford options are there for that. Does he want to go the safe place where he can just go start for 3 years at left tackle and get drafted in the first round? Because as a left tackle, it doesn't make a shit where you go. If you're that guy, and Georgia Tech does have a decent enough offense, even if they don't win games. That's just my thoughts on it. But yeah, either way, when Ohio State gets into it, which they've always been, it's been the top 5, but you hate those rumors. I would rather the rumors be heavier towards Georgia Tech for our chances than the Ohio State side, as Jen definitely alluded to. Way cooler, definitely a much cooler spot and a better chance to compete at this point in time at Ohio
for sure.
State, especially with Connor Stallions gone from Michigan. That 40-3 streak is over. I can't wait to watch that documentary. It is pretty nuts. Like, I got owned on the timeline because I didn't know anything about that. But a couple of years ago, they had like an over and under of 10.5. And I had watched them lose to Ohio State every year. It's like all these things. I'm just like, why are they so damn high on Michigan? Like, I talked all this shit and then they went 40-3. But lo and behold, now we know why. And the 3 games they lost, literally, or at least 2 of them, like the team knew about it and had anti-measures in for that. And that's how they won. So pretty nuts. That's how TCU gets in the playoffs.
TCU.
They knew, or Michigan could have won it 2 damn years in a row. So
Michigan was scouting Tennessee, sorry ass. Can you imagine that? I mean, honestly.
They had all the bases covered. Tennessee was pretty good that one year. So they were looking out for it.
Until they played Florida, sorry ass, right? They can't beat them Gators. Imagine that being your downfall. Jesus.
All right, guys. Well, we have talked camp. We talked a little bit about Petty. Guys, calm down. It's going to be all right. I'm at a 50-50. Jen says he's gone. Deshawn didn't really give a prediction, but
I'm 50-50 too, George.
So, bam. We're
50-50. To be fair, I never thought he was coming to Florida State because a 5-star offensive lineman to me is usually like a pipe dream anyway. So maybe my opinions aren't as is what everybody should go off of. But I am hearing a lot of Ohio State stuff with him and Georgia Tech and honestly Stanford. And I barely hear any Florida State stuff. That's all I'm going to say.
There you go. That's all she's going to say again. Petty to Ohio State. And she has been consistent on that. She hasn't been, she never really bit the cheese. But I'm going to be honest with you, I never do. It is what it is. That's why we preach that on the show. We give you the absolute latest information we have. Anything we can get, but that shit is subject to change. Anybody out there professing that they know and this and that, you'll find out. Similar to the conference realignment stuff that we sat here for a month and a half and just was like, guys, it's all bullshit. Just wait. And then a month and a half later, we landed back right in the same exact position, the same exact stuff we were telling you before. So what all comes around goes around. Florida State will have a top 10 class this year. It's steadily going up. If we don't have 2 5-star offensive linemen, we only have 1. It won't be the end of the world. But again, me and Deshawn holding out hope. We'll see what happens there. I threw the line up there, 850-495-1906. You can call or text in your questions, whether it be about camp, recruiting, anything else. The floor is yours as we hit about 45 minutes here. We got a good another 10-15 minutes we're going to roll with you guys. One of the guys I missed when we went through, our halfway point of camp Jalen Lucas. What are we hearing about Jalen Lucas as far as there was the whole like plug him in the NCAA. It seemed like holy shit, this guy could be amazing. He fits perfect. He's gonna be able to do all these different things. But we can just start with Deshawn on this one. Uh, is the hype real? Is he? You think how is he going to fit into this offense? Is he going to be a seamless playmaker? Like, what do you see him getting used as?
Swiss Army knife. He fits in that role just like you said earlier. He's more of the tailback role, where Torrey Feely, Singleton, Makai Danzy, that kind of role. I think you can actually also flex him out in the slot. I know at Indiana they use him preferably as a running back, but I think he's the kind of guy that can bring up and give you a lot of all-purpose type production. You're going to get some receptions for yardage. You're going to get some runs, and you're definitely going to get special teams play also between punt returns and kick returns. He's a little jitterbug. He can hide behind the line. With his size, I think he'd be perfect for those counter plays or those those off tackle type plays to hide behind the lineman. I just see him using him his versatility. I think they'll use him as a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, for sure, no doubt. Do you think like I guess more what I was kind of thinking with the question is like, as it stands right now, how do you see him? Do you see him as a first team all ACC type player? Like, where would you put him on that graph as far as the type of talent he is?
Yeah, I think where he could break through in that because he was honorable mention 2 years in a row in the Big Ten as a return man, and I think he led the Big Ten last year in kick returns. So I think he has a very, very possible huge chance of being all ACC at the minimum as a return man. And that's why I say where his all-purpose yards could be factored into him being a first teamer.
Facts. Again, guys, the number is up there. Y'all been kind of lame on the calls here, man. Nobody ain't got no questions. I know we do a good job covering everything and letting you guys know what's up. But anyways, our guy Onis Conanbanny, I believe, announced he's going to commit on August the 23rd. So we can start with Jen on this one, or you could just pass it off if you haven't heard anything. I know you've got Tennessee on your radar all the time, and it's between Florida State and Tennessee. How are you feeling on Snowfall?
I mean, I don't know. I guess I would go with Florida State.
All right.
I don't know. I don't know. With recruits and stuff, I don't know. I mean, Tennessee, I guess maybe they'll use Chick-fil-A bags. I don't really even know. Like, I don't know. They'll switch from McDonald's to Chick-fil-A, I guess. Class it up a bit. I don't know.
What do you think, Deshawn?
Well, I've been leaning more towards Tennessee lately. I mean, we've discussed it for reasons behind the scenes. It isn't just for on the field. It's just relationship, family kind of dynamic. That's why I think he chooses Tennessee because of that.
Yeah, this defensive back class we've been telling you for a long time. It's really weird, man. Pat Surtain has the ability to be really picky, and we're not in the room. I just don't know how he's recruiting these guys. Clarity delayed his commitment. He's a guy that got his offer real late. Like, I wanted him to get an offer, but he doesn't exactly fit the mold. And it was like he almost had to like pulling teeth to get the offer out there. Bryce Fitzgerald is somebody that you're starting to hear more and more good things about. So maybe he gets in the class. But I'm not. To be honest, I'm just not worried about DB. It would be nice to get any of these guys, but I'm not attached to any of them. There's a group of 6 guys that we'll see what happens. But you guys can take off if there's anything that we haven't got to. If there's anything I haven't mentioned, now would be the time for that. But I think we've done pretty good covering everything. Again, if you have any questions or something we missed, make sure to bring it up in the chat or call, and we'll get into it. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. I will add something that I'm interested in. We've discussed it a little bit, but the continual development with the pass rush. I know in the interview, I'm not going back to the defensive end position, and not to cause panic, but I know Coach Fuller had talked a little bit about wanting to see a little bit more from that area. So that's something to watch out for going down the line, down the road, to see how that's coming along with the development of the defensive ends other than Pat Payton. how they're generating a pass rush from the end position.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No doubt. I mean, that's got to get after the passer. It's what we're known for. But I trust them. We're so close, guys. Again, 18 days from kickoff in Ireland against Georgia Tech. It's going to be – I had somebody ask me when we're going to preview the season, go through the schedule. I guess we can do that. Maybe we can do that next week. We'll see.
Okay.
I'll get on it. I'll think of a good day to do that. We'll go through the whole schedule. You want to get through most of camp before you start doing that stuff. You want to have as much camp in your pocket as you can. And even it'd be nice if you could wait till after a game gets played. But we'll take it down. We'll probably do that next week. And then obviously the following week will be game prep for Georgia Tech. We'll see if we can get a Georgia Tech person on here as I scroll up the chat. You guys think
Can I be off that day?
What's that?
I said, can I be off that day? I'm just kidding. It's just hard for me to be nice to other people sometimes, you know.
I don't know what you're talking about. What day? If it's something
You said having a Georgia Tech person on, and I said, can I be off that day?
I got you. Whenever the analyst comes on. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Is there? Yeah, I guess after that rant you just made.
What rant? There was nothing false about anything that I said. There was nothing. The only good thing about Georgia Tech is that they beat Miami last year and gave us the fun that was like on Twitter for the whole year. Like that's it. That's all Georgia Tech does. That's it. Yeah. They don't do anything else legitimate. They did take that loser quarterback off our hands, which was nice. Thank you for that.
All right.
You know. Sorry, was that mean?
Hey, you're Jen. Jen gets to say what Jen says. You know, we don't always have to agree with all of them, but no, it's not too mean. I mean, if a grown man can't take a little rat,
Nebraska even kicked his ass to the curb. I mean, look, let's be for real here. That kid sucked. And we had enough quarterback problems.
We're talking about Jeff Sims now?
Yeah. Yes, that's what I said.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, Jeff Sims. Yeah, we could spend a whole topic about that. We dodged a bullet not getting that guy in here, which I don't know. I think Mike probably could have done something with him a lot better, but it was his turnovers and things. It was crazy. So much talent, but he would just like a klutz with the football, man. He just
those footballs looked like they were flipping. Like they weren't spiraling, they were flipping. This was bad. Willie Taggart's over here like, all right, Jeff Sims, I finally got a quarterback, right? And Mike Norvell comes in and is like, no. Sorry.
All righty. Fatal Jedi 2672 says, do you guys think that speed will be the X factor for the offensive success this season? What would be the X factor? I don't know if you call it the X factor. Like, we're going to be fast every year. I think the ability to have wide receivers, that can take the top off the defense and that's kind of be a little bit more of a focus on the speed rather than just kind of the catch radius and abilities of Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson. So, yeah, I can get with that. Isn't how I'd phrase it. But, yeah, the wide receiver room is going to be a lot more about speed than it was kind of, back shoulder throws and kind of the nuanced things when you've had a couple years with a quarterback or you're Keon Coleman who comes in. He's already wide receiver number 1 at the Buffalo Bills. He could have pretty much went anywhere and been like, throw it up.
Yeah.
But, it's a shame he got injured, but I don't know about X Factor, but I definitely think this is far and away the fastest team. Offense, defense, like you look at the defensive line up and down, how athletic it is, the offensive line, how big and strong and fast all those guys are compared to any team we've had in the past. Linebackers, freaks, we got some freaks back there. You lose an amazing linebacker in Kalen DeLoach, but luckily you get Lundy back, who is that number 3 linebacker, kind of like Azaria Thomas was. He doesn't have that ceiling that Azaria Thomas has, but his ceiling's a lot higher than people give him. People are just stuck back to like his freshman year, and they want to compare what he did on the field as a freshman in a shitty situation to what he'll be as a senior, and that's not fair. And guys, Deshawn, go ahead, and then Jen, if you have anything on this.
Yeah, I just piggyback off what you said, and with the team speed is the best it's probably been since Mike's been here. At the wide receiver room, if you look at 2 years ago, we had one guy that was really a off, take the top off kind of guy in Pokey. Last year we were more the big receiver, use the tight ends. But this year we do have the speed. It's just can they put it all together in their route running and things like that, and being able to consistently catching the football in key situations. That's what. But we have a receiver for every specific assignment. That's something that we haven't had under Mike. You got your big guys, you got your little speed guys, you got your shifty guys, you got all of that now. So Mike likes to dial it up per game in the game plan. So you'll see packages that when we go back and talk about Elijah Moore, where that package he could be specific for a certain team, or a certain game. We have that kind of personnel now that can match up, and we can just look for matchups and be able, okay, if you don't have a fast secondary, we're going to exploit that with the game breaking speed we have when we can go into our two deep and have a guy that can legitimately run a 4.340, and like Brown, that's a guy that's probably fourth or fifth on the depth chart. I'm just guessing, maybe six. I don't know, but he's a guy that can definitely make the stretch the field, because the corners are going to have to respect his deep speed, just like Benson, the same thing. Then you got Jalen Lucas, we talked about. You can flex him out. That's another guy who's very fast that can stretch the field.
Jalen Brown, that's a good one. Oh, sorry, I thought you were
Yeah,
saying.
no, I was just saying we just have options. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, no, Jalen Brown, he's a guy he's got a good chance to be a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Jen went somewhere. I was just about to go to her. What'd she say? Mm-hmm. I don't have time to look. We'll see her when she gets back. Okay. The one thing I wanted to talk about that we hadn't mentioned, the guys are heading to Jacksonville. I think you told me that something happened at UNF, University of North Florida. Every year, it's an annual thing. Mike Norvell takes the team down there for team building for a couple of days. I guess they had some water damage or something, so they moved over to the Jaguars facility.
Yeah, I believe the field was a little bit jacked up. I had saw it on X. It was reported apparently they may be working out at the Jacksonville Jaguars facility. They'll hold the camp there. That's what I believe. Let me see. I'm going back to check it now.
Oh, that's all right. But what was I gonna say? Guys, we really appreciate you. Everybody that's in here, you can hit that subscribe and like. We'd really appreciate it. We're usually about half and half subscribe and non-subscribe. But as far as this team, the trip to Jacksonville, the continuity in the coaching staff, all these things add up, guys. It's part of the reason we're so confident. Part of the reason when we do our previews, probably going to have some 11s. Who knows? You might see a 12 pop up. It's going to be a lot of fun. Everybody's booking their rooms for Charlotte. This team is a team. People want to talk about culture problems and this things. That's why it's so funny as us Florida State fans. That's why everybody gets a crack out of it. That's why they get such good engagement, because they know they're saying BS. Either they know or they just don't know about Florida State. When you hear some of these national talking heads go on, rants about the Georgia situation and how that means there's a culture problem and stuff, when Georgia only graduates 40% of their people and have all this terrible shit going on, all the crimes, all the everything else. Like the poll came out, the coaches poll, Florida State number 9 in the nation, ahead of Miami, ahead of a lot of teams that when you listen to these shows, when you look at these lists and things of that nature, they think that they're better. They think they have this, they think they have that. So I think the coaches poll is pretty good at number 9 with an opportunity to get a lot higher. And I'm just super high on this team, man. It just keeps coming to better and better. We're only halfway through, but halfway through, I think all the kind of best case scenarios of what we talked about DJU getting in here and having a team similar to 2022, but just pretty much upgraded at every position. It's just across the board. When you look at this year's team to last year's team, you lose, again, the experience and the jersey names at wide receiver. But besides that, this is the strongest team. This is the fastest team. This is the longest this coaching staff's been together. It keeps compounding interest. We got rid of 20 some odd players, left the program. Okay. Like, I'm not trying to hate on those guys, and they're probably great guys, but just 20 guys that weren't going to They weren't going to cut it. They weren't going to get where they wanted to go. You brought in 17 guys. We floss over it. But the Jalen Browns, the Siona Lolo Hayes, the Brady's, I can't think of his last name, but the Marvin Jones Juniors, all these guys, I'll give you guys a homework assignment if you're worried about the team and the talent and things of that nature. Okay, just know Florida State's had 3 top 10 transfer classes in a row. Even though Miami fans, Florida fans, they want to just ignore that shit. Like, that is true, and that makes a big difference. Go look at the hit rate. Go write down all the defensive linemen, defensive ends that Florida State has pulled out of the portal. And do a little bit of math, okay? And then look at the 4 we brought this year and look at what the odds are that one of those guys is going to be a first or second rounder. Very, very high. So just whether it's Sione, whether it's Tommy working inside and outside, whether it's Marvin Jones Jr., it's all going to be all right. We could get caught. We're more vulnerable than we were last year of losing on any given Saturday. But also, the kind of ceiling is as high as it's ever been and could possibly be even higher. I've got, I'm good. I think I got my my kind of ran off for the night. Jen, anything on your mind before we get out of here?
No, I think I'm good. I'm just excited. I can't wait to watch everybody play. I can't wait for the games to start, honestly. And I can't wait for, the conference shit to be over with. That's another thing I can't wait for. And for the recruiting, like, upset Nellies to just calm down, stop pissing their pants. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Look, Mike Norvell had horrendous recruiting and went undefeated. Like, let's stop the madness. Okay? Stop it. Stop it. Miami has been out recruiting for Florida State for a while now. I mean, minus a couple of years when most of theirs were like NRs, right? I mean, we remember those funds. What does those like NRs mean next to their names? Miami fans would go nuts. But that was like in 2009, guys. Like, let's be for real. It's over. And Miami's been doing what Miami does, and they out recruit, and then all their players transfer in a year. We already know the deal here. We've got their best defensive player on our roster. Okay, so let's just enjoy it, have fun, and screw all of them. Who cares?
There you go. If you haven't caught the cut of Jen's jib, get over there and check out the Renegade roast last night. Her and Tiny Hat CEO really got in on Florida and Miami, kind of the big 3 episode. And there's all kind of fun episodes. She's had Coach JB on there. They had the Utah Ute from Big 12 Mafia. They've had a lot of fun. So go check out those. Whatever team you don't like, you can find an episode where they're shitting all over them. So it's a lot of fun. We'll be back here. What's today? Tuesday. We'll be back here Friday. I'm going to be on the Voice of College Football on Wednesday. Also, go check out Spear Addicts. I went and hung out with James and Chris, talked to them last night. You can go check that episode. But again, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Go make sure you follow Jen at Jen Santee 1890. Follow Deshawn. Also, check out Deshawn's YouTube channel if you want to let the folks know where they can find that.
Double D's Let's Talk Ball podcast, and also D's Corner, DSCORNER, D's Corner.
Boom. There you have it. Write it down. Go mark it. Go get signed in.
I guess he hit the button.
Well, good night, guys.
Good night.
It's you guys have an amazing night. Thank you for. Oh, here's George back.
Every once in a while, instead of hitting end, you just hit exit. So now we're ending. We love you guys.
Good night.
We'll see you guys on Friday. Go Noles.